Hey guys, welcome back. Tisha here, back with another Sister Wives Season 15 review. Producers, editors, production team, lend me your ears. That's not on my notes, but for some reason, while I was saying that, I thought of Shakespeare, like giving a speech for. Anyways, let me focus. Let me get back to my notes. I need them to stop protecting Cody. It's time to roll the footage, especially when it's evident that Cody is blatantly lying. He said that this would be a fresh start when the fresh start has not happened. The only people in this situation who I think got a fresh start was him and Robin. He revealed his hand, and the moment that he revealed his hand and he showed Christine that it wasn't what he said it was going to be, she was ready to be out. The bird is the only person who truly is happy about what she's received in Flagstaff, because unlike the others, she has a mansion. Cody is sitting here acting like some of these women are so wrong for thinking what they're thinking, yet he changes his thoughts every chance that he gets, depending on who he's in front of, where he's at, what wife he's talking to, or what is currently being shown to him. I just wish that the producers would call him out on it and show it to us. They show us the same scenes over and over and over again. They even did it this episode with giving us another flashback of the whole situation when they were leaving Utah. And you can't show us the same thing when it comes to the lies that Cody has showed. Why not do a flashback of all the times that Cody has blatantly lied and do a side-by-side still, since we see it and apparently they don't? But let's go ahead and get into it. Go ahead and like the video as we begin. So despite the heaviness of the last episode, we begin this one at Mary's house. All the adults are there with the exception of Christine, because Christine is actually at a job that will pay her when all of this stuff is over with. They spent an entire season talking about the bird needing to get a rental and this whole moving situation, but yet they can't spend 5 minutes to let us see something that is actually reality, which is Christine is working to make sure that she can keep a roof over her kids' heads when she leaves that jerk, and that her daughter can get her surgery. All right. She's in Phoenix doing work, and apparently she does it a lot. The adults are discussing their upcoming trip to Utah. They're heading there to meet up with the Dargers. The Dargers are a family of adults that, according to their book, actually have a successful plural marriage, to the point where they've put in work for their marriage. Joe made sure his wives got along. His wives made sure they spent time together without Joe. They made sure that they actually liked each other. They dated each other in a platonic manner because they wanted what was best for their growing family. In my mind, this is an example of what I thought that the Browns were going to be, and this is what the Browns tried to initially present to us in the beginning. So Cody lets us know that the Dargers are a politically active family, especially when trying to decriminalize plural marriage in Utah. I believe that Cody tries to put himself in the same category as Joe, but he hasn't done nearly as much as Joe has, because Joe has actually taken steps to make sure that his family functions as a unit. He actually considers his wife's feelings. He's actually doing the legwork. He's actually been questioned by multiple authorities for being a polygamist. He was a part of some of the same communities that Christine was a part of, the same organization speaking up for the brighter side of polygamy that she was. You see, it's easy to come on television when you want to check and you want attention, but it's different when you come on television because you actually want to do the narrative which Cody tried to present, which is be the change. Okay. We actually see, in looking at this whole thing over the years and seeing how this thing has played out, I don't even think we get to see 10% of what the Browns are actually about. So Janelle lets us know that she hasn't heard anything from any of the other adults since the last sit down, and she's wondering if they're just thinking about it, but they're not, because this is what they do. They have a deep conversation. No one says anything about it. They left the restaurant place after filming, after that heavy stuff, and they didn't address it. They never addressed their issues. They go surface level with it, start to talk about some of the problems, and then they just skim past it without dealing with the issues. We're reminded that back in 2010, Cody and the Wives went public about being a plural marriage. That plural marriage is considered a felony in Utah, like many other states. As a result, the police began investigating the family. Let's put this into context, though. The show aired in September of 2010. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was September. They moved by January of the following year. They were in Vegas. So they did all that stuff where they abruptly decided to leave, even though they had that 3-month time slot from when the show aired and when the investigation began, to start to prepare their children, to let their children know that they were going to leave. But some of them, in my opinion, much rather have a storyline and have something to show, because the way that they went about doing that and the way that they tormented those kids and the way that they caused them to be depressed is not okay with me. And I would not be surprised if the reason why they handled that situation they did was so Cody can get a reaction out of us, the viewers, and sympathy. Janelle says the family was fearful that they would be arrested, so they decided to leave in the middle of the night. I've said this on this channel multiple times, and some of you all have agreed that I don't think that they were at risk of being arrested or having their kids taken away. They were not questioned by officials. They openly admitted on national television that they are polygamous. The moment that that first episode went on, if they really wanted to, they could have came in and separated the family then. If the state really desired to get them, as much back and forth as they had done, as much going to and from and having camera crews follow them and all these other things, all this various filming around Utah, they could have gotten them then. But this is their story and they want to stick to it. The Browns, after all of that, buy their homes in Vegas. They sue the state of Utah and they win. So for about a year, they're good. It's not a felony. With that win, Cody and his wives feel like it's decriminalized. They're no longer felons, according to Janelle. They never were felons, though, because I would think that you have to actually have, I don't know, some type of active thing, be convicted for a crime in order to be a felon. But they want to be labeled as felons, so let's let them have it. I doubt that they want the other things that are associated with that, with the lack of jobs and how, you don't get some opportunities because you've lost them through that felony. But we're going to go with this narrative that they're felons. It kind of irritates me sometimes the way that they say things, because they're not really looking at the bigger picture. Like, there are people who actually have felonies who can't get certain things, and here you are using the word loosely. But maybe that's just my problem, not theirs. Okay. At some point, the state appealed the lawsuit. It gets overturned. A new, stricter law was created, making polygamy an even bigger felony in Utah. A new bill now has been proposed that would revise that law and make it so that it's no longer a felony offense. A mouthful, I know. Hopefully I explained it right. If I didn't, fix it in the comment section for me, please. Part of the reason for this trip is so that Cody can talk to Joe Darger about the new bill. Who drives all the way to another state to have a conversation that they could easily have over the phone? And why are they jumping on this bill so hard and needing to film this so badly when at this point they have no intentions of living in Utah? I'm just saying, are you all looking for storyline here? Did you talk to the Dargers and say, don't worry, we'll shed some light on this by coming to see you? Like, why now? Christine feels like the road trip is ridiculous. She thinks that Cody overcomplicates everything, and he does. Every aspect of his life is complicated for no reason. Look at what it takes for him to even style his hair. He has like 3 strands. Okay, he has more than 3 strands, but I was gonna say he has like 3 strands of hair on his head. I'm wrong for that. Okay, I don't mean 3 strands. He doesn't have a lot of strands on his hair. of hair on his head, and it takes him forever. Whatever. Okay, let me leave that alone. So Cody insists that this trip is necessary. He says they're lonely for a polygamous family. A video call with the darker family just won't do. He wants to be around other polygamists. Well, maybe you should have thought of that before you moved and moved in the area where they were. I don't know. I mean, you had an opportunity to move closer to them, but you chose to move to Flagstaff. Y'all, I'm sorry. I'm peeling bad, and I'm just noticing this on camera. So pardon my crustiness. It's my skin. It's very sensitive. I was out in the sun and I'm peeling. Janelle tells Cody and the wives that she's been watching the news and the debate is pretty lively in Utah. Robin says she doesn't live in Utah anymore, so it really doesn't concern her, but it does affect her polygamous family that's still in Utah. How concerned is her mother and her father really if they actively participate on this show? How concerned? Because they like to act like this is such a big thing. I'm like, oh my God, while we're traveling, something could happen to us and we could get pulled over and get, charged. But your mom and dad have been seen on this show and nothing has come of it. Cody wants them to leave consenting adults alone. He's talking about legislation. He says what he does in his bedroom with another consenting adult is nobody else's business. I actually do agree with that. Robin says it's not usually consenting adults that are the victims in this situation. She goes on to talk about child brides and abuse that occurs in some polygamous marriages and how decriminalization and decriminalizing this law would make it easier for victims to come forward. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I get what she's saying, but in reading the few books that we've read and hearing some of the panel discussions that have actually been on this show, I think that the real problem at this point isn't even necessarily the laws. It's the cult. It's the belief system, because they are brought up in fear. So whether it's legal or not, there would be a problem in getting them to come out if these families are taught for years and years and years that this is not right, that these people want to break you up. Look at Christine. Christine was legitimately in fear about going back to Utah for the longest time. Like, she was scared about being on the show, and she was scared. Her concerns were real. Now, Cody's, I don't believe in, but Christine saw this all her life, and she's heard stories about her grandfather and his family being separated. It cuts close to her, but I don't feel like the real reason why, well, I'm not going to say the real, I don't think like the complete reason why it's a problem for them to come out is just because of they're afraid of the law. I think there's more depth to that. I think that even if they make it legal, there's still going to be people who are afraid to come out. I want Robin to stop trying to educate us and tell us what the problem is and speak to those people who she knows to be polygamous, example, her family, and ask them to come out, ask them to speak out, because it starts at home. I hope y'all understood that. I know I was all over the place with that. But I guess my point is, don't just say it's the law and that's why it's not happening. There's more to it. It's what's been indoctrinated in you all. Cody then says it's a good thing that they didn't move to St. George, Utah like he originally wanted, because remember, he openly admitted to us that he was looking for places in Utah. He even asked if they'd be okay with living in Utah if plural marriage was decriminalized. He says, like, if it was just a parking ticket. And nobody wants to move back to Utah, with the exception of Christine. If the bird was on board, do you guys think that Cody would move back to Utah? If the bird was, I think he would. Let me know down below. Christine gets off the phone and tells us, she's still on the phone, but she tells us in confessional that she actually does want to go, but she's not going to bring that up to the family until the law passes. Once the law passes that decriminalizes it, then she'll let them know. Before they leave, Cody talks about how they should all go in one car. He says it gets on his nerves that they always want to drive separately, and it just shows the dysfunction of their family. If it shows the dysfunction of your family, then work on the dysfunction. As soon as Christine gets off the phone, the adults can't get out of Mary's house fast enough. They really don't like each other. They really don't take the time to hang with each other, because maybe Janelle has something to do, but why did Cody and Robin have to run off too? It's the next day, Everybody is preparing to go to Utah. Because they're working on their connection, all the adults are going to travel in one car. Doesn't sound like a big deal to me, but it was a big deal to them. The first stop is Christine's house because they're using Christine's car. One thing that I noticed is that at Christine's home, rather than all the wives coming there, Cody and Robin are there. Cody and Robin left the day before together when they left Mary's house. And now here they are. We don't see the arrival, but it's obvious to me that Robin came with Cody, that she rode with him over there because neither Janelle nor Mary showed up at Christine's. They got picked up by Cody. So why not have all the adults come over there? Because you obviously were at Robin's before you came over here. Robin is always nearby. Cody, once again, overcomplicates things. He knows that they're going to be all in the same vehicle. He knows that space is limited, and yet he has all this unnecessary stuff like walking shoes and running shoes and dress shoes. I personally am an overpacker. I've said it before in here. I know some of you are as well. I know, Lisa, you just like me. You overpack. We could be gone for a weekend, and it might be a whole week of clothing in the bag. But when I know that space matters, or when I know I'm traveling Delta and I'm only going to be gone for the weekend and I'm not trying to pay $30 one way and $30 another way because I wanted to carry something other than a overhead bag, I will purposely do like I'm supposed to do and not pack so much. So why couldn't Cody do the same? So space is an issue even before they leave because of all of Cody's junk. They haven't even made it to the homes yet, the other two homes, and the car looks full. Christine says, based on the luggage alone, we're going to need 2 cars. Maybe if he would leave some stuff, like a couple pairs of shoes, there would be more space. And he's irritated because he feels like Christine just wants to take 2 cars. He then starts mocking her. He says he's mocking the wives, but he's really mocking Christine, saying the different things that, the wives possibly say. They get in the car, they go to Mary's, they park. As he gets out the car, he realizes that Christine's tire is going flat. Because he knows everything, he tells her he doesn't want to change cars. All they need to do is go to the dealership and get it fixed. So he'll go by himself, and they all decide that they should all go with him. So it's not so much driving back and forth like you have to come back here and get us, whatever. She feels like rather than doing all that, they just need to take a different car. And he feels like she's being antagonistic for suggesting another car. But she's not. She's telling the truth. He says it's not going to take that long. Christine tells him it's going to take longer than what you're saying. How long do you think it's going to take? He says 20 minutes. And she's like, it's not going to take 20 minutes. She tells us the only way that could happen is like if we're in the front of the line, and we're not about to be in the front of the line, and they aren't. So instead of wasting time at the car dealership to get the car fixed, she just feels they should grab either another vehicle or 2 other vehicles. And this pisses the bald eagle off. I mean, his feathers are everywhere. He's mumbling under his breath. He's talking junk. He's going back and forth with Christine, and he's not down with it until the bird says that she feels like it's actually a good idea. Cody says, okay, everyone is going to need to get into the car as planned. I'm going to pick everybody up, and then I'll stop by the tire shop on our way out of town. It's a shame that the only voice that he hears, that the only voice doesn't seem to be combative to him, is that of the bird. He's very irritated by the littlest things that Christine says and does. So they're all supposed to get in this car. And as they're driving, I'm like, I'm not trying to be funny, but the weight of extra bodies in this vehicle and him driving however far he has to drive doesn't sound like a smart idea to me. So he gets to Mary's house, runs in the house, and is like, Mary, 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 all over the house, trying to get her to hurry up. But she's in the bathroom. As she comes out and comes down, he tells Mary they need to hurry up really fast because they have a flat tire. She says, okay, then why don't we just take my car? She says it very calmly, but he kind of snaps at her and is like, no, can't do that car. Robin is making comments about how angry Cody is, but she's not telling it to Cody. She's saying it to Mary. She's like, Mary, it's not your fault. He's a little upset. And she's telling us that he's angry and he got his brows furrowed up and all these other things. But of course, in front of Cody, she's the demure wife that doesn't have a problem with anything he's doing. And then in confessional is something else. Call him out, Bird. Say what it is that he's doing. Cody says, I need an engine that's going to pull all these big people up the mountain. I said, what? You cannot tell me that man does not sit around talking crap about his wife's weight when he says, I need an engine that's going to pull all these big people up the mountain. And Mary must be used to those kind of comments because she doesn't even flinch at the fact that he just said that, okay? Meanwhile, I'm like, no, he didn't just say that. Mary says, this trip has already gotten off to a bad start and she should have flown. He then gets to Janelle, practically doesn't even let the SUV completely stop before he's telling her to hurry up and get in the car. He can barely fit her stuff in the SUV. Christine's like, don't jack up my trunk because he's trying to shove the trunk down. He says, this is going to be fun, traveling with a bunch of bossy women. He's horrible. So they get to the tire shop. Christine jokes and says they should call Nancy on the way to Utah. Mary thinks they should bring her along, and she's like, I could put her in her lap. I don't think you should bring her. What good would she be? After 10 years, she's barely accomplished anything. All of this discussion for them to arrive at the tire shop and find out that the tire leak isn't even something that they could fix, that the nail has done too much damage and the tire has to be replaced and they don't have it in stock. It's a rare tire, so it has to be ordered. Robin then says we should use my minivan. And Christina's like, okay, didn't I suggest 45 minutes ago to take another vehicle? But I was looked at like, no, how dare we? Cody says, I really don't want to use the van. And Robin's like, I know he doesn't think that my van is cool, but there's more space in my van. There's a lot of space in my van. And Christina's like, okay, well, do we need to take the van? Or do we need to take two cars? Like, does it have enough space? And Cody's like, there's actually more space in the van than there is in your SUV. I said, overcomplicating things again. Because if that was the case, why wouldn't you take that vehicle in the first place? I'm looking at this situation and I think it is really selfish of Cody that he does not have a family vehicle. I understand that there are various families and various families operate differently, but given the size of this family, I think that him having all these sports cars and all these coupes is extremely inconsiderate, that he should have something that's more functional for them rather than him always having to take one of the wives' cars. With everything that's going wrong, Christine is like, we could just call them instead of driving. And he gets an attitude about her making that suggestion. Being the jerk that he is, he tells Christine, all right, Christine, or he says it to us, how about the next time that Christine wants to see me, that I'm just going to call her? I would never be able to be with a person like Cody Brown because he is so disrespectful. And if he had said that to me, it wouldn't have been pleasant. Janelle then talks about how this whole time there, she was worried about getting pulled over by the police and them charging them with something. And Robin is like, it just, is this dreading feeling that she has. Janelle, I like you, but I need you to shut up. You've been so many times since you left. Find a new storyline. So the Browns got there at 11 o'clock that night. I wonder what time they left. Janelle talks about how on the trip there, it was good. They had a lot of good conversations while traveling. So now it's the next day and they arrive at the Dargers. They're greeted by Joe and his three wives. Christine is embraced by Joe and he says something that we don't hear Cody say to her. He says, it's good to see you. You look good. And it wasn't a flirtation type of thing. It was a camaraderie situation where the both of these people who have worked with each other, he's seen her over the years and he's seen her evolution. And he's acknowledging the fact that Christine looks nice, which is not something that we hear Cody do. Christine explains that two of Joe's wives are biological sisters. They're actually twins. She says it's normal in the polygamous world for sisters and friends to want to marry the same guy, that it happens a lot. I personally can't get with it. I can't share. I love my sister, but I'm not sharing. They currently have 9 children that are staying at home with them, and their youngest is 6 and in kindergarten. Cody turns to Joe and asks, "Is it time to grow up and stop having children? Or do you think I can have one more?" I said, this is Cody finally admitting that he's not grown up and that he acts like a child. Because what do you mean, is it time to grow up and start having children? I would think you would have to be a grown up in order to have, well, you can't say that because there's people who aren't grown that have kids. Look at Cody. Joe smiles, but it's like one of those awkward smiles. Bald Eagle informs the adults that he's considering having another child. And the last time I checked, much like the last time Robin checked, that would be something that she would have to consider because he needs his wife in order to do it. And the bird lets us know that out of his wives, the only one who is currently, I don't know if she said able or willing to have children, is her. We all know that this annoys Robin because she does not like him talking about her reproductive system in front of everyone. He said it on multiple occasions, and so has she. He then said again that for 45 years of his life, he's been thinking about being a dad. From the time he was small, he was thinking about this, about the type of dad he would be, about how many kids he would have. And he just wonders if he should have one more. I'm not saying that he's lying because different people think about children at different times. And I know there are some people who think about it at a young age. I just know for me, I wasn't thinking about it that long. I did think about being a mom. Like I had goals set and I'm like, okay, by the time I'm 25, I want to be married. And by the time I'm 26, I want to have a kid and all those other things. But I didn't start thinking about the type of mom I was going to be until I took that test and it flashed pregnant. That's when those thoughts came to my mind. Joe says, for me, what's going to be fulfilling at this point isn't more kids, but it's my grandchildren. His wife then drops a bomb. She says his 6-year-old is trying to find him a 4th wife so he could have more children. They laugh about it, but it doesn't seem like anything he's actively pursuing at the time. Mary is enjoying all of these talks, and she's saying that she wishes that they could be around more people like the Dargers, especially Cody, because it sets a good example and there's a camaraderie there. Mary has always liked Joe. Because even in the other season, when they came, she loved how organized he was. Now, Janelle didn't care for it, but Mary loved it. She loved the precision. She loved how he assigned rooms and said who was going in what vehicle and how the wives and the kids just listened and respected him. Joe and his family just operate differently. Because unlike Cody, Joe seems to be considerate of his wives and he likes them. And he got into polygamy based on what he said in the book and based on a little bit that I've seen for more than just his ego. The ladies are preparing a meal in the kitchen. Janelle is impressed by the fact that they work in this kitchen together all the time. The husbands chat about designing their dream homes. And Joe says for their final dream home, what he wants is he wants a shared family kitchen and like separate apartments for each of the wives, Alina, Vicky, and Val. Alina interrupts, adding that Joe wants his own separate bedroom. And they're laughing about it. And Cody looks at Joe and says, "You want your own bedroom? I'll never get that. That will never be allowed." Why wouldn't it? Maybe they wouldn't want to come lay with you in it, but why wouldn't it be a thing where if you want your own space, give him his own space to throw all his junk so he doesn't have so much crap everywhere? Christine confesses to the cameras that plural men never get their alone time, but plural women do. And she thinks that plural men get jealous of the time that plural women get to themselves. I think that Cody makes his own time. You just don't know about it because he's doing something other than Robin. Yeah, I said it. Robin doesn't like that Cody is complaining about them. She says, he'll survive. If I can survive sharing you and dealing with the jealousy and the drama and all the stuff that has to do with plural marriage, then you'll be okay. A little snarky of her, a little snippy, showing that side. Robin isn't all rainbows and kittens and ooh, I love plural marriage. She's over some things herself. Cody says, I think one of our biggest problems is we don't have other plural families to share with. It's hard being away from other polygamists. I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is the person that is standing next to Joe, which is Cody. Mary says, our family is separating and we are acting more like individuals than a family. We don't struggle anymore together like we used to. Now we struggle independently. Christine agrees that they can benefit from being around other polygamists. My question is, what changed so much when you got in the cul-de-sac that you couldn't make that time to operate as a family because you were right next to each other? You didn't even put up a divider in the backyard for your home. So what made it so that you couldn't fix that? The family sits down to eat. They discuss their living situations because the Darger had visited them before in Vegas, so they saw what they had before. They share one home, the Dargers do, so they ask, okay, what's your plan for Arizona? And Cody tells them that the plan was for them to build one home on their property. How is that a plan, though, if you never talked to the wives about it? But whatever. It's very similar to what Joe wants. Vicky says that I think that's great. I love it. It's really important for us to be able to gather. He admits that he's not pitching this idea to the Dargers. He's itching, put a B in front of it, this idea to them. He says, I just want to be honest with them about our relationships. This is not the time to be honest, though. The time to be honest is when you trick the women into moving there in the first place, or when he lied about his intentions with that property, or when he used the one home as an excuse to further complicate things and complain about Christine, or when he used the move to get Mary's funds in there and said he was going to try to work on things with her when he never had any intention to. That was the time to be honest. Cody picks and chooses when he wants to be honest. He wants access to all his kids, he says, every day. And most of his kids are gone. So this is just like, okay, the access that you want is the access that you have, and it's to the bird's kids because all of her kids are at home. At this point, everybody else has gone their separate ways. He then throws Christine under the bus. He rides the bus on top of Christine by saying she's the reason that the family doesn't want to live under one roof, or no, can't live under one roof. And I just don't understand how it's all getting put on her. All the wives, with the exception of Janelle, didn't want it either. Janelle's the only one who gave a definite she wants it. She even said it again while she was at that uncomfortable dinner in that dark room with them, and they did not. Valerie says she's done both and there are pros and cons to both. The Dargers are all singing the same tune about how great it is that being together forces them to deal with issues. And Mary says when you're not together, you don't deal with issues because you don't have to, and it gets lonely. Mary, once again, is so lonely because she always talks about the loneliness and she looks lonely. She looks sad. Joe says from his perspective, the cons seem kind of petty, but he admits that it's selfish on his part to say that because the wives deal with things that he doesn't have to do. He gave an example of the laundry room and how that was a problem for them, but it wasn't a problem for him. Once again, acknowledging his wives and their feelings. This is not something that we see Cody do. Instead, what Cody does is Cody complains when they have a feeling. Joe and his wives share the ways in which living under one roof is rewarding. They should have told them to read their book. Maybe they could have learned something from it. The wives say one of the things that they love most about living together is that they feel connected to all of the children, even the ones that aren't biologically theirs. This is when the bird lets us know that she feels like a stepmom to Cody's other kids. Whose fault is that? Especially when you lived in the cul-de-sac right next to them. All you had to do was get away. Here's the thing. Robin had a nanny, so what was her excuse? Janelle says her kids can go to Christine's house and look in the fridge without a problem because they used to live with her, but they can't do that at Robin's house because they didn't live with her. Or is it because she had the note on the refrigerator door telling them not to? I want Janelle to be honest about the situation because there are places where I don't live. Example, my man's house, my mama's house, where I can go in the fridge. We've already had the discussion about it. As long as I wash my hands before I go into my mama's fridge, it's fine. My boyfriend, he don't really care. I wish he would care, honey. Honey, like, can you wash your hands? I'm playing, y'all. He washes his hands. But that's that's a big pet peeve for me. Don't go in my fridge. But if we're family and you've been to my house a couple of times and we've already had that discussion and you want to go in the fridge and grab something, so be it. We're family. They're family, but they don't operate like family. Um, where am I at? Joe says, I'm not going to. Okay. Joe says, I'm not trying to push my feelings on you guys. I'm just trying to tell you our experience. And Robin says, no, this is what I want to hear. I'm just trying to make peace. I'm just trying to make peace with what we, decided, with what's been decided. You decided. Don't act like Christine made the decision for you. She was never like Janelle and said, yes, I want this. The only person who said it was Janelle. She goes, I don't get to experience it. I'm just going with what we decided as a family. And, I'm realizing that I'll never get to experience it. Okay, you won't get to experience it. You didn't want it. You didn't want it when Janelle offered it to you in the book. You said you wanted your own space. So don't try to act like you wanted it. He tells the group he's done a poor job because his family doesn't want to live under the one roof. He's trying to figure out what went wrong, they did wrong as a family. And I'll tell you what you did wrong. You got a fourth wife and you stopped loving the other wives and those children. You got a fourth wife and you stopped being a husband to those other wives. You got a fourth wife and other children, and you acted like because your other kids didn't dote on you and do the things that Robin taught her kids to do, that they took more precedence. You didn't love them all equally. Joe shows them grace by talking about how much they went through and how, you guys went through a lot 10 years ago when you came public, and then you had to move and you left from Salt Lake and you went all the way to Vegas, and that's a big difference in all the things that you've done. And despite all the stuff that you've been through, you all, your kids still love you. They still love each other. And the bird is sitting there getting teary-eyed as he's talking like she had some part in the way that the older kids have been raised. I cannot stand her. Joe sees that they lost something, and so do the other moms. Cody is still hanging on to his anger, and because he's holding on to his anger and he's not getting what he wants, he's causing them to lose more. So at dinner, Joe tells the Browns, after dinner, about the bigamy bill and the fact that simply calling each other a sister wife in Utah is considered a felony. It's a 3-year sentence. And Janelle lets us know, so based on the amount of wives he has, Cody can get anywhere from 9 to 15 years because he is married to one wife and he has 3 other wives. Well, come and get him if that's the case. Joe says the new bill would make polygamy an infraction. Instead of jail time, they would only face a ticket for up to $700 or community service. The Senate has passed the bill, but it still has to go before the House and the governor, so it's not a done deal yet. His wife, Lena, tells the Browns that more polygamists are coming forward now than ever. They know that people aren't coming forward to get help for things like medical needs and stuff like that out of fear of what will happen. They start talking about fear again. I'm not going over it. We heard it for years. Christine says her grandfather said more people need to go public and show the love. He was urging for people to do it, and his family got separated, but now is a different time. Alina adds that she's optimistic that the bill will pass. Mary says she's optimistic too. And if it doesn't pass this time, she thinks that it eventually will, because the polygamous culture isn't going anywhere. The Dargers feel that the stress of the family and what they've been going through is getting to the Browns. They don't know if it's because of the move or if it's because of something that's going on in the family, but they hope they get it together. The bird lets us know that they worked so hard and they gave up so much to stay a family. And I think we've lost sight of that little bit. And to hear about this bill, it's just like, okay, all the sacrifices we made will be worth it, because this is why we did it. This was so that we could be a family, and we have to remember that and put effort into that and get out on that property together and work on these relationships until then. And that's how they ended it. She didn't cry that time, but she got, into her little, I just know all the answers and what it is that we have to do to get this family down the right path. And we still haven't seen it. This episode was, to me, it was kind of like a filler. The fact that we wasted an entire episode talking about this situation for a bill that I do feel like decriminalize it for those who need it decriminalized. If they're not doing anything wrong, then whatever. figure out something for these people who are stuck in a situation that they don't know any better. If that's what you want to do, then do that. But talk to these wives, talk to these kids, figure out what's what, if they want to be a part of it or not, and move from there, because each situation is different. There may have been some things that I left out that you want to discuss. Feel free to put it down in the comment section. Thank you so much. We have 3 Sister Wives review this week. We have 2 of the book club. I'm starting a new book on Tuesday. It is called Black Cake. For those of you who've never been a part of my book reading, I read the book and I make comments as we read along. The last one was from Sarah Allred, who was a part of polygamous marriage, and she escaped and she made us all mad at the end. And this one is something different. So I'm excited to read it, and I'll see you next time. Until next time.